Hey folks, everything new under the sun. All right, we're looking at the book of Enoch, and we are at the section. This is a book, by the way, an ebook that I'm looking at. This is on Kindle, Amazon Reader, whatever. I purchased it for $10 off Amazon, and you can support Ken Johnson. He is the person who put this book together, and created his own commentary on it as well. And we're at the section of this ebook where it has a couple of paragraphs on the 70 shepherds. Now, I did a video on that in the past. I'm going to tack it on to the end here, and I think that'll go over it enough. And I do think it is interesting because it gives some chronology, some prophetic chronology of the leaders, apparently, of Israel from the time that he's writing it, basically right up until the last shepherd. So the shepherd being the leader, the president, the prime minister, the king, whatever it is, the leader of the country, the person who is guiding it, managing it, leading it. And so this 70 shepherds speaks to that. So I'm going to read a couple of the paragraphs here out of the book of Enoch, the ancient book of Enoch by Ken Johnson. Then we're going to cut to the video where I kind of do the more in-depth study about this specific piece of the book of Enoch here. He called 70 shepherds and gave the care of the sheep over to them. So the care of the sheep being Israel, basically. He said to the shepherds and their companions, "Let each one of you pasture the sheep and do everything exactly as I command you." So that's God is saying basically to the shepherd, guide my people, the Jews, as I command you. I will deliver them unto you duly numbered, and tell you which of them you are to destroy. When he had given the sheep over unto them, he called to another, Michael, and said, "Write down everything that the shepherds do to those sheep, for they will destroy more of them than I have commanded. Record how many they destroy out of the ones I command them to destroy, and how many of the ones I command them not to destroy. Record against every individual shepherd all the destruction he effects, so that I may have this as a testimony against them, and know every deed of the shepherds, whether or not they abide by my command, which I have commanded them. Do not declare it to them, nor warn them, but only record against each individual all the destruction which the shepherds each affect each in his time, and lay it all before me." Now, it makes me think, I believe the Bible speaks about the teachers being under a greater condemnation, or not condemnation, but held to a higher standard, I guess is the word. The teachers, the leaders, the spiritual leaders, the pastors in churches, for example, are held to a higher standard than just the regular folk, because they're in charge of teaching people. Let's go find the verse here for that. All right, I just Googled it quickly. James 3, 1-2. And this is a verse speaking about teachers being held to a higher standard. "Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, for you know that we who teach will be judged with greater strictness." So it's a serious thing to become a teacher. I'm involved in that. If I am doing something that leads people astray because of what I'm teaching, that's basically what I'm doing. If I suggest that if I'm reading the Bible and telling you things about it, it is on me if I tell you something false and that leads you astray and leads you into damnation, basically. And your blood then is on my hands, effectively. So obviously I want to be careful about what I say. And generally, specifically about this book, I have qualified it in the past and said, well, this is extra biblical, so take it with a grain of salt. But the prophecy is interesting, and if I don't tell you, I risk holding back something that maybe you should know, maybe would grow you in your faith, or maybe would help explain things for you. So anyways, the teacher is dealt with more harshly, if you will, if he leads people astray. All right, let's go to the next section here. And so I'm just going to, I'm not going to go through this list here. "I saw till those shepherds pastured for a season, and they began to kill and destroy more than they were bidden. And they delivered those sheep into the hand of lions, the lions and tigers, Assyrians, Babylons." And so the leaders didn't keep Israel and the Jews as a people separate from the other nations, and they allowed the people to intermingle with the people of other nations, and they invited different gods in and statues and whatever in there. And so they didn't do their duty shepherding, keeping safe the Jews. The lions and the tigers, Assyrians, Babylons, ate and devoured the greater part of those sheep, and the wild boars, Edomites is the question mark there, is that a wild boar speaking of the Edomites, ate along with them, and they burnt that tower, Solomon's temple, and demolished the house, kingdom of Judah. So Nebuchadnezzar burned the temple in 587 BC. That's a hard one to say. So that is Ken Johnson's commentary on that one. Burnt that tower, Solomon's temple, and demolished that house, kingdom of Judah. I mourned a great deal over the tower because the house of the sheep was demolished, and afterwards I was unable to see if those sheep entered the house. Israel was not in their land, but in captivity in Babylon. It was written by the other, Michael, in a book, how many each one of them destroyed of them. Each one killed and destroyed many more than he was ordered, and began to weep for those sheep. I watched how he wrote down every one that was destroyed by those shepherds day by day, and carried up and showed the whole book to the Lord, everything they had done. The book was read before the Lord, and he took the book from his hand and read it, sealed it, and laid it down. So from there, we're going to go to what the whole story of the 70 shepherds is about here. And I think okay, 70. I was thinking the 70 generations. Yeah, so we're gonna go into the 70 shepherds here, and I did a video, so watch that. I'm appending it onto the end here. Again, it's an interesting study, interesting thoughts there, interesting timeline on how close we are to the return of the Lord, if this 70 shepherds is accurate. And it goes through the leaders in that video. It goes through the various leaders that are suggested to be those. And Bibi Netanyahu, Benjamin Netanyahu, right now, is one of those shepherds. And he has served multiple terms already. Could he be the last leader of Israel? It is very potential, and it seems likely. He continues to be voted in, and he continues to be the leader of Israel. Now, he's not a king, obviously, but I go into that. This 70 shepherds kind of refers to the leaders, whether it's a king, a prime minister, president, whatever, the main person who is heading the country. So let's get into it, guys. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, and continue watching here, and we'll get into the whole 70 shepherds. This is a repost, by the way. Just so you are aware, but we are in the section in Enoch, since we're going through it, that I didn't want to skip this part, and I know there's more people who have subscribed who haven't seen it yet. So again, thanks for watching. We will see you guys in the next video, and stay tuned here. Alright, hello everybody. As I promised, I'm going to do the lesson on the 70 shepherds of Israel and its prophetic significance to our day and age, and I think you'll find it interesting. The qualifier, I guess, would be that it is extra biblical, and we'll get into a bit of the details there, but certainly as you see things converging, various different prophecies, it certainly is interesting that this one seems to line up with many of the other ones. So we're going to look at the 70 shepherds of Israel, and this is from the book of Enoch. So going to get into a bit of background first. What is the book of Enoch? So this is from Wikipedia. The book of Enoch is an ancient Jewish religious work ascribed by tradition to Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah, although modern scholars estimate the older sections, mainly in the Book of the Watchers, to date from about 300 BC, and the latest part, Book of Parables, probably to the end of the 1st century BC. It's not part of the biblical canon used by the Jews apart from Beta Israel. Most Christian denominations and traditions may accept the books of Enoch as having some historical or theological interest or significance. but they generally regard the books of Enoch as non-canonical or non-inspired. It is regarded as canonical by the Ethiopian Orthodox Tawahedo Church and the Eritrean Orthodox Tawahedo Church, but not by any other Christian group. So that is interesting about where it comes from. So a bit of this was answered, but should we give the book of Enoch as much attention or weight in its truth as the Bible? And the answer, of course, is no. It was not included in the canon, so the Old and New Testament as we know it today, Genesis through Revelation, it was not included on purpose, and while it's possible it's true, Enoch was a person. Enoch is in the Bible, the canonical Bible. Most of the church fathers believe it not to be inspired. Now, there are lots of extra biblical books as well. So just as a bit of background information, there's a couple here. So the book of Enoch, obviously, it's spoken of in the Bible in Jude 4, 6, 13, and 14. It's mentioned in 2 Peter. And then you got the book of Joshua. Many people have heard of the book of Joshua as well. It is spoken of in Joshua and also in Samuel. And then you got the book of the Annals of the King David, and that's spoken of in 1 Chronicles 27. And that's from Wikipedia too, so you can go search that if you want. So there's a lot of extra biblical books that are referred to in the Bible, which really make for interesting reading, studying, backing up the Bible, where they would agree, and then allowing for more research where they don't agree, maybe. Certainly the canonical Bible is what you take for inspired and truth through and through, whereas the non-inspired books, you certainly need to take them with a grain of salt. Know that they may be true, also know that they may have been changed or in some other ways affected over the years since we've got them. So what value do extra biblical books have? A couple of points. They're great for biblical historical reference. They give you background on stories in the Bible and people. For example, Josephus, which is not a prophetic book, it's just a historical book, a historian from that age. And that gives us great information to back up what the Bible is saying, who were the kings at that time, what were the Jews doing at that time, and so it serves as a great historical reference and backup. Confirmation of the Bible in many cases, historical veracity, prophetic references, which are very interesting. So in this case, the book of Enoch and Joshua as well speaks of prophetic things as well, which lined up with the Bible make for some really interesting conjecture. Certainly we don't take it as truth 100% necessarily, but it certainly is interesting. The fact that the inspired books of the Bible, the canon, reference these books speaks very, very well for their existence and credibility, though the reference may not ascribe veracity exactly in its whole. So these books, like I say, they just because the Bible speaks of them, it suggests that there is some truth, at least to the original writing of the book, because God, in his all his knowledge, and he knows everything, obviously, chose to speak of a particular book through a man who was writing the books of the Bible. So interesting that the Bible references many of these as well. So who was Enoch? Again, from Wikipedia, great resource. Take it with a grain of salt, obviously, what you read there. But where it's right, and so it's good, good to use. Enoch is a figure in biblical literature. In addition to an appearance in the book of Genesis of the Hebrew Bible, Enoch is the subject of many Jewish and Christian writings. Enoch was the son of Jared, Genesis 5:19-21, the father of Methuselah, and the great-grandfather of Noah. Enoch lived 365 years before he was taken by God, which is a small amount of time compared to his offspring Methuselah, who lived 969 years. The text reads that Enoch walked with God, and he was no more, for God took him. This Enoch is not to be confused with Cain's son Enoch. The Christian New Testament has 3 references to Enoch from the lineage of Seth in there. Now, a bit of a rabbit trail here. And note the reference to rapture in Genesis. This is an interesting, a bit of a reference to it. And Jared lived 162 years and begat Enoch, and Jared lived after he begat Enoch 800 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. And Enoch lived 60 and 5 years, and begat Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. So it gives a great chronology, for one point, which is great for your creation research, young earth stuff. And then verse 24 here, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. That is basically a reference to the rapture. It's an example of a rapture event where a man doesn't die a physical death, but is taken up to be with the Lord. So that's kind of one interesting note to make there. Alright, now I'm going to get into some reading. This is from a PDF, which I will link to in the description of the video. And it goes through a whole study, and you can read it. But I'll just go through and read it here, so bear with me. There is another prophecy that, although it does not give exact year date, indicates that we are on the threshold of the tribulation period. This prophecy also speaks of a fiery abyss that the wicked will be cast into. The prophecy isn't in the Bible, however. It is instead found in the book of Enoch, in Enoch's prophecy of the 70 shepherds of Israel. Based on archaeological evidence, even the most conservative scholars agree that the manuscript this prophecy appears in predates the New Testament by at least 700 years. However, the book of First Enoch and the prophecy of the 70 shepherds may predate most of the Old Testament by 1,000 years or more. In this prophecy, Enoch speaks of the shepherds or rulers who have governed Israel, not just in the past, but also in the future. So that's where we get into the prophetic significance of this reference in the book of Enoch, who apparently, in Bible terms, spoken of in the Bible, was a stand-up guy, enough so that he was actually raptured, taken away to be with God without dying. So I'll read a bit of the vision here. In a vision, Enoch saw that there would be 70 shepherds of Israel, and he called 70 shepherds and cast those sheep to them that they might pasture them. And he spoke to the shepherds and their companions, let each individual of you pasture the sheep henceforward, and everything that I shall command you, that do ye. And I will deliver them over unto you, duly numbered, and tell you which of them are to be destroyed, and them destroy ye. And he gave them over unto those sheep. 1 Enoch 89, 59, 61. Now you can just Google the Book of Enoch, and you can actually download it and read it for yourself. It's interesting stuff. These 70 symbolic shepherds watch over the flock of sheep that figuratively are God's chosen people. So that's Israel. The next passage tells us that Enoch saw the first group of 35 shepherds as unique from the other shepherds to come. So what we're going to get into is a separation, two groups of shepherds basically. The existing group of shepherds, and then kind of the final set of shepherds. So we'll move into that here. And I saw till that in this manner 35 shepherds undertook the pasturing of the sheep, and they severely completed their periods as did the first, and others received them into their hands to pasture them for the period, each shepherd in his own period. 1 Enoch 91-2. So it's basically speaking of kings of Israel, leaders of Israel, etc. That's kind of what it's getting towards. These first 35 shepherds correspond to the 35 kings of Israel and Judah that ruled before the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the kingdom of Judah in 597 BC. After this, a series of foreign kings ruled over the promised land as shepherds. The following passage clarifies this in time and history. The 70 shepherds Enoch saw were all descendants of Israel, though some of the Israelite shepherds have had overlords over them who are also called shepherds. And that goes into a bit from First Enoch there. The eyes of those sheep were blinded, so that they saw not, and the eyes of their shepherds likewise, and they, the shepherds of the sheep, delivered them in large numbers to their shepherds, the overlords of the shepherds, for destruction, and they trampled the sheep with their feet, and devoured them. 1 Enoch 89, 74, 75. Enoch sees 23 foreign kings ruling over Israel until the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, adding their numbers to the 35 kings who came before. A total of 58 kings were foreseen as rulers over ancient Israel. And I saw until that 23 had undertaken the pasturing and completed in their several periods 58 times. So there's some periods of rule which kind of repeat in circular fashion, which again we'll see once we get into the kind of the last 12, where there's some leaders who lead more than one term, for example. So a king would only lead one term, obviously. He'd be king and then he dies. But as you get into prime ministerships, you get elected for 4 years, and then you're up for election again, and you could be leader again of Israel for another 4 years. After this, Enoch foresaw the 12 more shepherds would arise to govern Israel. He therefore foretold the birth of Israel as a nation in modern times. Sadly, Enoch tells us that this group of 12 final shepherds in Israel will do more damage to Israel spiritually than the 58 bad shepherds who governed the country long before them. And I saw that man who wrote the book according to the command of the Lord, till he opened that book concerning the destruction which the 12 last shepherds had wrought, and showed that they had destroyed much more than their predecessors before the Lord of the sheep. And I saw till the Lord of the sheep came unto them, and took it in his hand, the staff of his wrath, and smote the earth, and the earth clave asunder, and all the beasts and all the birds of heaven fell among those sheep, and were swallowed up in the earth, and it covered them. 1 Enoch 19. The 12 last shepherds of Israel will therefore be judged and found guilty along with the 58 shepherd kings of Israel who came before them, with the exception perhaps of King David and King Josiah, who were righteous kings before the Lord in the Lord's sight. Most from among the 70 kings, however, will perish without repenting of their sins. One easy way to test the legitimacy of Enoch's prophetic vision of the 70 shepherds of Israel is to see how closely the prophecy of the 12 last shepherds applies today. We can do this by counting how many prime ministers have ruled in the modern nation called Israel since its inception in 1948. Uncannily, 12 men have served in this office so far, as shown in the following list. James Johnson, a fellow scholar, friend and enthusiast of the book of First Enoch, provided me with the list. This is the person who wrote this PDF speaking, when the 12th prime minister had not yet ruled. So here's the list here, and I just got these images actually just from Google. Just Google prime ministers of Israel, and that actual photo gallery along the top will come up. So you see right from the start here, 54, 55, Moshe Sheret. Actually, I'll go back here. So the first being David Ben Gurion. From 1948 to 53, he served a couple terms, 55 to 63, and then Moshe Sheret served 1954 to 55, Levi Eshkol, Golda Meir, Yitzhak Rabin, he also served a couple of terms, so the prophecy in these cases basically count multiple terms as one, because it's the same person, it's the same shepherd leading Israel, so multiple terms don't count in that case. So you go down the list: Shimon, Perez, Ehud, Barak, and now we're getting into names that we all recognize, obviously. Ariel Sharon, and there is an interesting prophecy about Ariel Sharon as well, and his death. But anyways, I'll probably do another video on that. Ehud Olmert, and Benjamin Netanyahu. Now this one is a bit old, and so this one records 96 to 99. 2009 to present, and I think this is a number of years old. I believe he's actually, I think this last election is his 4th term in office. So he has served in cycles 4 times as leader of Israel. But the prophecy would count that as one. The same leader led over Israel, just at different times. Whereas with kings, obviously you are a king and you live and you die, and you don't serve multiple times as king. So that's why the reference there. The preceding list clearly shows the 12 men that served as prime ministers of modern Israel, with some of them serving more than once. Adding these 12 to the 58 prior shepherds of Israel mentioned by Enoch, we find that the 70 men have already served as shepherds of Israel. Since there are only to be 12 shepherds of modern Israel before all 70 of Israel's shepherds are judged, then the time before the end of this present world system must be very near. Now, when he was writing this, Benjamin Netanyahu was still in office. We get to today, and you know that an election just happened. Now, if that election had elected another prime minister, Herzog, for example, then this prophecy would have been null and void, because you would have had a 13th shepherd of Israel. So that is a very interesting thing to take note of, that this being his 4th term, like I say, if he wasn't elected just last week, then this would have rendered this prophecy invalid and false, basically. So very, very interesting that he got in. Is he the last one? He's got 4 years to go in his 4th cycle of being the shepherd of Israel. So we'll soon find out. During the 12th shepherd of Israel's rule, Enoch prophesied that the persecuted sheep that follow the one-horned ram would be a great sword with which to fight their enemies. As shown when this prophecy is focused on again in the next chapter, the sword is the Holy Spirit. After this, the Lord of the sheep will smite the earth with his wrath, destroy the wicked, set up his own kingdom, and rule until the last judgment. Enoch 90:19-21. Therefore, the 12th prime minister of Israel is likely to be the last one to rule before the second coming of Christ. So he's basically saying right there that Benjamin Netanyahu, if this is a correct prophecy, he will be the final leader of Israel in this in these final years of Earth's history, in the 6,000-year history of man prior to the Lord's second coming and the millennial reign. So now Benjamin Netanyahu, I guess, could get elected, 3 more times, and we could be here for another 12 years or whatever. But certainly, at least as it stands right now, this looks to be the last prime minister if this prophecy is true. So we'll see how long it takes. And it would be very odd for him to continue to get elected, although this is his 4th term, so who knows. If this prophecy is true, it means that Yeshua himself will serve as the 13th leader of modern Israel during his millennial rule. This fact shows again that the 13th member of any group can often turn evil into good and replace wickedness with righteousness. Fascinatingly, and he sums up here, Benjamin Netanyahu's stint as Israeli prime minister was due to end September 2010, after a period of only 18 months in office, but Netanyahu won elections held then in late 2010, and will hold the position of Israeli prime minister until 2014 unless he dies in office. However, if Enoch's prophecy of the 70 shepherds is to continue to hold true, either there will be no more prime ministers of Israel after Netanyahu leaves office, or else Israel will be governed by one of its former prime ministers after Netanyahu until Yeshua returns to vanquish the wicked at the Battle of Armageddon. So it would still be within the prophecy if one of the previous prime ministers were to lead again and basically take another term on in addition to the terms they had already served. So that's a possibility too. So we'll see if that follows the prophecy or not. Since he has already been in office since 2009, Netanyahu's position as prime minister is due to end someday soon. Like I say, this is an old PDF, and we know he's still in power right now as of March 2015. and will be for the foreseeable future. As shown in Book 2, The Language of God and Humanity, the Feast of Israel prophetically correlates with the rapture. However, the rapture is even more closely tied to Pentecost and the summer harvest season in Israel, so there's a possibility that the rapture could occur someday soon. And again, I assume that's related to, specifically around when he's writing this. My view on the rapture specifically is that the Lord will return at the Feast of Trumpets, which is the September-October time frame, because that's the trumpet where no man knows the day or the hour, and also the Feast of the Last Trump. So we'll see what happens. I mean, the Lord can rapture me anytime. I've got no problem with that. So what could it mean? It could very well be true. We shall see. Netanyahu was elected to another term, like I was saying. If one were to believe this, it's not even possible another could have been elected, because it would have invalidated this prophecy. So if Herzog was elected, it would have made this prophecy null and void, obviously. It also means, if true, that time is short. This prophecy, taken together with others, such as the prophecy of the 112 popes, which most of you know about, etc., add to the growing list of convergent prophecies that suggest we are truly in the last days, and even add further credence to the inspired prophecies in the Bible that we are in the last days and the Lord is returning soon. So I hope you found that interesting. It certainly seems to agree, at least in terms of timing, with biblical prophecies and other extra biblical prophecies, as well as prophecies by Jewish rabbis in the last 100 years, and that sort of thing. It's interesting that it lines up as well with the 112 popes prophecy. It's interesting it lines up with the economic situation that we're in right now, and it's just quite coincidental that Netanyahu is the 12th in this list here, if you don't consider the multiple times in leadership, and that he got elected to a fourth term in this case. So very interesting stuff. Research it a bit more. There's a bit of information on Google about it, and certainly do go read the book of Enoch. It's interesting reading, not inspired, but certainly interesting, and a great extra reading on top of reading your Bible to give you some background. And it also gets into the fallen angels, the Nephilim, and there's a whole bunch of video blogs there that I could do. But there's some really interesting information about what it was like before the flood of Noah, with the fallen angels, the giants in the land, all that good stuff. Anyways, I'll leave it there, and you guys go check this out, and it's interesting stuff.